I never imagined that a birthday cake could destroy the fragile balance of my family, or that one cruel moment would expose years of favoritism, resentment, and silence. But here I am, telling you how my sister Audrey threw away my autistic son's dinosaur cake and set into motion a chain of events that nearly destroyed her dream wedding. If you're watching this, drop a comment letting me know where you're from, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because this story is one of the hardest I've ever had to tell. The memory still feels sharp, like a shard of glass lodged under my skin. The cake wasn't just a cake. It was a three-dimensional triceratops, complete with textured fondant scales, curved horns, and gentle cartoonish eyes that looked as if they might blink at any moment. It wasn't just dessert, it was a promise. A promise to my son Noah that his 8th birthday would be special, that he could belong, that his world of dinosaurs could be celebrated instead of mocked. And Audrey threw that promise in the trash. But to understand why, I need to take you back. From the outside, my family looked picture perfect. My parents, Margaret and Thomas, were pillars of their suburban community. Sunday brunches, holiday dinners, carefully posed photographs above the mantel. They'd raised two daughters who looked like opposites but were supposed to complement each other. Audrey, 2 years younger, was the golden child, polished, disciplined, and ambitious. She wore success like a crown, graduated top of her class, secured a prestigious job in finance, and got engaged to James, the heir to a luxury hotel chain. And then there was me, Maribel, the creative one, the one who made interesting choices, the one who got pregnant at 24, fresh out of college, while my career in graphic design was still a fragile seedling. Noah's father vanished before the ink on the sonogram even dried, and so it became Noah and me against the world. For years, my parents made their disappointment known in small ways. A raised eyebrow when I showed up to family gatherings alone. Comments about how hard it must be raising Noah without a father. I learned to swallow the bitterness, to plaster on a smile, and pretend their words didn't sting. But it wasn't until Noah was 4 and diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder that the cracks in our family facade split wide open. Autism explained so much about Noah: his sensitivity to loud noises, his need for routine, the way he could spend hours talking about dinosaurs with encyclopedic knowledge. His therapists helped me see these not as weaknesses, but as different wiring, different strengths. Noah is brilliant. He notices patterns no one else does. He remembers details others forget. He cares deeply about fairness, honesty, and truth, but he also struggles. Birthday parties, noisy family dinners, the chaos of life, it overwhelms him. My parents didn't want to hear that. "He'll grow out of it," my dad said. "He just needs discipline," my mom added. They never came to a single therapy session, never read the resources I sent them. And Audrey, she grimaced whenever Noah flapped his hands in excitement, rolled her eyes when he covered his ears at Thanksgiving, muttered little jabs that cut deeper than she realized. Does he have to bring that dinosaur toy everywhere? Have you thought about that special school across town for kids with issues? He's a bit obsessive, isn't he? Each comment was a dagger, but I let it slide, for the sake of family harmony. And yet, despite everything, Noah thrived. He worked so hard in therapy, learned coping strategies, and even started making friends at school. When he asked if he could have a real birthday party with his classmates, my heart nearly burst. "Will they like dinosaurs too, Mom?" he asked one night, clutching his favorite Triceratops plushie. "Even if they don't love dinosaurs as much as you," I told him, "they'll have fun because you're their friend." He nodded solemnly. "I will share my dinosaur knowledge but not talk too much. Miss Peterson says I need to let other people talk too." I hugged him tight. He was trying so hard. So I planned the party of his dreams. 3 months of late nights, extra freelance projects, and dollar stretching. I rented the Pinewood Community Center, the affordable side of the same venue where Audrey would marry James in just a week. I painted cardboard volcanoes, strung paper vines, and built a fossil-dig sandbox. I found sensory-friendly games so every child could enjoy. And the cake, oh, the cake, the bakery's masterpiece. $200 of sugar and artistry, but worth every penny. Noah knew about the cake, but seeing the sketch had made his eyes light up like it was Christmas morning. For weeks, he asked to see the picture again and again. The night before the party, he whispered, "It's going to be perfect." And I believed him. The morning of the party dawned bright and clear. Noah woke before the sun, already wearing his dinosaur t-shirt. His cheeks were flushed with excitement. "Today will be perfect," he declared. I prayed he was right. We arrived 2 hours early. Linda, the event coordinator, helped us unload boxes. "Most kids just want the latest superhero fad," she said with a smile. "It's nice to see something so personal." Noah carefully placed plastic dinosaurs on each table. "The herbivores and carnivores must be separated," he told Linda seriously, and she nodded like he was giving sage wisdom. By the time the bakery van pulled up, the room was a prehistoric wonderland. And when Noah saw the cake, his magnificent triceratops brought to life in frosting and fondant, he whispered, "It's perfect." His hands twitched with the urge to touch it, but he clasped them together tightly. Everything was ready. At 1 p.m., children arrived in a flurry of laughter and chatter. Noah greeted each one with the rehearsed lines we'd practiced, only occasionally slipping into dinosaur facts before remembering to ask about their interests. My heart swelled with pride. Then at 1:30 I saw them. My parents, and behind them Audrey and James. I hadn't invited Audrey. I knew her presence would make Noah anxious. But there she was, in designer jeans and a silk blouse, her engagement ring flashing like a weapon under the fluorescent lights. "Surprise," my mom said, hugging me stiffly. "We thought we'd all come support Noah." "And I wanted to see how this venue handles events," Audrey added, her smile sharp and insincere. "James and I want consistency across their properties." James at least looked uncomfortable. He handed Noah a beautifully wrapped gift. "Happy birthday, buddy. I heard you like dinosaurs." Noah took the gift carefully, placed it with the others, and gave a small nod, his version of politeness when overwhelmed. The games began: pin the horn on the Triceratops, fossil digs, trivia contests where Noah beamed as he explained answers. The kids laughed, played, and enjoyed themselves. But Audrey stood off to the side, whispering to my mom, rolling her eyes, sighing dramatically. When Noah explained the difference between the Jurassic and Cretaceous periods, Audrey leaned in and stage whispered, "Does he ever talk about anything else?" I bit my tongue so hard it nearly bled. I wouldn't let her ruin this. Then it happened. During the dinosaur freeze dance game, Noah, caught up in his T-Rex impression, bumped into a table. His juice spilled, purple liquid splashing across the floor and onto the corner of Audrey's pristine white Prada purse. "My Prada bag," Audrey shrieked. She snatched it up, glaring at the stain. "This cost more than your entire party, Marable." Noah froze, his eyes wide, hands flapping nervously. "I'm sorry, Aunt Audrey, it was an accident." "Well, maybe if you could control your movements for 5 minutes. "That's enough," I snapped, stepping between them. The room went silent. Kids stared. Parents shifted uncomfortably. Noah bolted for the quiet corner we'd set up, clutching his headphones, tears spilling down his cheeks. I turned to Audrey, my voice low and furious. "I'll buy you a new purse, but not today, not here." She huffed, stalking off toward the bathroom, my mom trailing behind. My dad pretended to be fascinated by the cookies. I knelt beside Noah, whispering, "You did nothing wrong, accidents happen." "Aunt Audrey hates me," he sobbed. "No, sweetheart, she just doesn't understand, that's her loss." After a few minutes, he bravely returned to the games. I thought maybe, just maybe, the worst was over. I was wrong. Terribly wrong. Because in less than an hour, Noah's dinosaur cake would vanish, and what I found in the dumpster outside would change everything. If the spilled juice on Audrey's purse had been the spark, then the cake would become the explosion. But to understand how it got to that point, why my sister could look at an 8-year-old boy and decide to toss his dream cake in the trash, you need to know how our family really worked. Because the truth is, this wasn't about cake. It was about decades of favoritism, denial, and jealousy that no one wanted to admit existed. Growing up, Audrey and I were painted as two halves of a storybook. The good daughter, the golden one, Audrey, and me, the creative mess, the free spirit. From the time we were little, our roles were decided. Audrey was meticulous, neat, and always striving. She got the gold stars, the perfect report cards. At family dinners, Dad would beam with pride. That's my girl, already talking about Harvard. And then there was me. I liked to draw on the walls, make up stories, sing too loud. I wasn't bad, but I was different. My parents didn't understand different. That's just Marable being Marable, they'd say, in that tone that meant a disappointment we've learned to tolerate. Every compliment Audrey received came paired with a comparison. Why can't you be more like your sister? Look how organized Audrey is. She's going to be someone, Marable. Maybe you'll settle down eventually. I learned early, no matter how hard I tried, I would never be Audrey. The favoritism became sharper as we grew older. Audrey breezed through school, graduating with honors. I pursued graphic design, which my parents called a hobby masquerading as a career. By the time I got pregnant with Noah at 24, fresh out of college, the gap between us had turned into a canyon. I was single, broke, and scared. Audrey was already climbing the finance ladder, flaunting designer handbags while I clipped coupons. Your sister set such a good example, Mom would sigh as she helped herself to another serving at Thanksgiving. You could learn from her. They never asked how I was managing rent, never noticed the circles under my eyes from working 2 jobs while raising a baby. Audrey's life was shiny and polished. Mine was survival. And then came Noah's diagnosis. When he was 4, a therapist sat me down and said the words, autism spectrum disorder. For me, it was like someone had turned on the lights in a room I'd been stumbling around in. Suddenly, his meltdowns, his flapping hands, his encyclopedic dinosaur lectures, they all made sense. For my parents, though the diagnosis was an embarrassment, something to sweep under the rug. He'll grow out of it, Dad said. Maybe you just need to be firmer with him, Mom added. They never came to the parent education sessions. They never learned the strategies. And Audrey. She recoiled, literally recoiled. I'll never forget the Christmas dinner when Noah, overwhelmed by the noise, crawled under the table with his toy dinosaur. Audrey's high heels clicked against the hardwood as she bent down, peering at him like he was some strange insect. Does he have to do that? She whispered, loud enough for me to hear. He's fine, I snapped. He's regulating. She smirked, or maybe he just needs to learn how to behave. That was Audrey, always sharp, always cert. The thing is, Audrey never saw Noah as a kid. She saw him as a disruption. When he flapped his hands, she rolled her eyes. When he shared dinosaur facts, she called it obsessive. When I set boundaries to protect him, she accused me of coddling. Every jab, every snide remark chipped away at me, but I swallowed my anger, because standing up to Audrey never ended well. My parents always defended her, she just wants what's best. She's only being honest. Don't be so sensitive, Marable. Sensitive, that was the word they always used. But I wasn't sensitive. I was tired of being the family scapegoat, tired of watching my son be dismissed by people who were supposed to love him. Still, I held on to hope. I told myself that when Audrey had kids of her own, maybe she'd understand, maybe she'd soften. Instead, she got engaged, to James. James was everything Audrey could have dreamed up in her vision board life. Wealthy, polished, polite. His family owned a chain of luxury hotels. Their wedding was scheduled at Pinewood Gardens, the most exclusive venue in town. A 6-month waitlist, champagne fountains, roses imported from France. From the moment she flashed that diamond ring, Audrey was untouchable. My parents fawned over her, over James, over every minor detail of the wedding. They treated it like royalty was getting married. And Noah and I, we faded further into the background. But Noah, bless his sweet heart, never noticed the politics. When he asked for a dinosaur-themed party, I promised myself I'd give him one, even if I had to pick up extra freelance work, even if it meant tightening our already tight budget. For 3 months, I saved every penny. I stayed up until midnight painting volcanoes out of cardboard, stringing vines, planning sensory-friendly games. I ordered that Triceratops cake, the one that made Noah's eyes sparkle when he saw the sketch. For once, it was going to be about him. Not Audrey, not perfection, just Noah celebrated for who he was. But Audrey couldn't stand that. Maybe she saw Noah's party at Pinewood Community Center, the cheaper wing of her wedding venue, as some kind of intrusion. Maybe she thought my party was stealing attention before her big day. Or maybe she simply couldn't tolerate the idea of Noah being happy in a space she thought belonged to her. Because that's the thing about Audrey. In her world, everything revolves around her. And if it doesn't, she finds a way to snuff it out. The day of the party, when she showed up uninvited, I should have known something was coming. I watched her from across the room, whispering to my mother, her mouth curving in that little smirk she wore when she was scheming. Noah didn't notice. He was too busy leading a fossil dig, laughing with his friends, cheeks glowing with joy. For a moment, it felt perfect. But Audrey's eyes kept flicking to him, cold, judgmental, as if his happiness was a spotlight that dimmed hers. And when the juice spilled on her purse, I saw it. That flash of rage, that look that said, "I will make you pay for this." At the time, I thought the storm had passed. She left for the bathroom, Mom trailing behind like a dutiful guard dog. Noah calmed down, rejoined his friends. I tried to breathe again. But when 3 o'clock came, and I went to retrieve the cake from the refrigerator, it was gone. We searched everywhere, cabinets, counters, freezer, nothing. My stomach turned cold. And then Audrey's smirk, the way she whispered something to James, her eyes darting toward me. That's when suspicion hit me like a thunderclap. Could she, would she? The children were waiting, chanting cake, cake, cake. My son's eyes were wide, his little voice trembling. Where's my dinosaur cake, Mom? I didn't answer. Instead, I rushed outside, toward the dumpsters. And when I lifted that heavy metal lid, the stench hit me first. Sour milk, rotting vegetables, old grease. And sitting on top of a pile of garbage bags was the Triceratops cake. My son's dream, our promise, thrown away like trash. And on the cardboard box, faint but undeniable, was the scent of Audrey's perfume. My hands shook as I pulled the box out, the fondant scales smeared, the cardboard damp. The cake was still intact, but it felt like my entire world had been gutted. In that moment, something inside me snapped. This wasn't about cake, this wasn't even about me. It was about an 8-year-old boy who had asked for nothing but a dinosaur party with his friends, being punished by his own aunt for daring to exist differently. And I knew I couldn't stay silent anymore. Because if I did, if I swallowed this the way I had swallowed every other cruel jab, what message would that send to Noah? That he didn't matter, that he wasn't worth standing up for. Not anymore. When I carried that cake back inside, dirt smudged on the box, whispers rippling through the room, I knew something irreversible was about to happen. And the confrontation that followed would tear my family apart. When I walked back into that party room holding the cake box, every eye turned to me. Parents gasped at the dirt smudges and garbage stains on the cardboard. Children stared, their excitement flickering into confusion. And Noah, my sweet boy, lit up for a moment. "You found my dinosaur," he exclaimed, relief washing over his face. But then he saw my expression, my tight jaw, my shaking hands. His smile faltered. I set the cake on the table and turned to face the room. My voice trembled, but I made sure it carried. "I found the cake," I said, "in the dumpster." The silence that followed was suffocating. A child whispered, "Why would someone throw away a dinosaur cake?" I looked straight at Audrey. "That's a great question. Audrey, would you like to explain?" Her head snapped up, cheeks flushing. She fiddled with her manicured nails. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really?" I stepped closer. "Because your perfume is all over this box, the same perfume you've been wearing all day." Gasps rippled across the room. James turned sharply toward her, confusion etched on his face. "Audrey, did you throw away the kid's cake?" "Of course not," she scoffed, but her eyes darted away from his. "Marable," my father interjected, stepping forward. His voice carried the same weary authority I'd heard my whole life. "You're making a scene. This is not the time or place." "When is the time, Dad?" My voice rose despite myself. "When Noah isn't here to hear how his aunt really feels about him, Should we keep pretending like we always do? Noah's friends shifted uneasily, parents whispering, some gathering coats. Noah stood frozen, his hands clamped over his ears, rocking slightly, his telltale sign of overwhelm. Audrey straightened her back, her mask slipping. Fine. Yes, I threw the stupid cake away. After he ruined my $2,000 purse with his carelessness, he didn't deserve a $200 cake. The room went so quiet, I could hear the hum of the air conditioning. He's 8 years old, I said, my voice breaking. He had an accident. He always has accidents, Audrey snapped. He always gets special treatment because he's different. Do you know how sick I am of hearing about Noah's needs, Noah's therapy, Noah's diet, Noah's sensitivity? It's always the Noah show. Each word was a slap. My mother finally spoke, her tone sharp with warning. Maribel, this is not appropriate. The children don't need to hear this. No, Mom, I shot back. We've been silencing this for years, and look where it's gotten us. Across the room, Noah's soft sobs broke through the tension. Am I defective, Mom? His small voice cracked. Something inside me shattered. I knelt in front of him, cupping his tear-streaked face. No, baby, you are perfect exactly the way you are. Don't you ever believe otherwise. I turned back to Audrey, my anger now a wildfire. But you looked at an autistic child and decided he didn't deserve his own birthday cake. That wasn't about a purse. That was cruelty, and I won't excuse it anymore. Audrey rolled her eyes, her voice dripping with venom. You use his condition as an excuse for everything. His behavior, your failed relationships, your perpetual victimhood. Gasps again. A few parents started ushering their kids toward the door. Face it, Maribel, she sneered. The reason you're still single is because no man wants to deal with a defective child. The word defective echoed like poison. Noah let out a sob so raw it silenced even Audrey. He buried his face in his hands. Enough, I thundered. Not another word. You will not speak about my son like that ever again. James finally stepped forward, his face pale. Audrey, what is wrong with you? He's a child. Audrey turned on him, her voice shrill. Don't you dare side with her. You said yourself he was disruptive at Christmas. I said he seemed overwhelmed by the noise, James snapped back. That's not the same as calling him defective, and it sure as hell doesn't excuse throwing away his birthday cake. My father barked, everyone calm down. He raised his hands like a referee. We can get another cake, Noah will be fine. He will not be fine, I shot back. None of this is fine. Noah deserves better than being treated like an inconvenience by his own family. Noah had retreated to his quiet corner again, headphones clamped on, rocking as tears streamed down his face. Tyler, his best friend, sat silently beside him in solidarity. Audrey threw up her hands. This is exactly what I mean. One little setback and he falls apart. How's he ever going to function in the real world if everyone keeps treating him like he's made of glass? Function, I hissed. My son isn't a machine. He doesn't need to meet your definition of normal to be worthy of love. He is a human being with thoughts and feelings just as valid as yours. But not as normal as mine, Audrey shot back. The audible gasp from the parents still present was deafening. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of her. I wasn't swallowing my anger to keep the peace. I took Noah's hand gently, lifted him to his feet, and turned to the crowd of stunned parents and children. I'm so sorry, I said, my voice cracking. The party is over. Please take some goodie bags and cake pops on your way out. Thank you for celebrating Noah. Several parents stopped to hug me. Stephanie, Tyler's mom, whispered fiercely, call me later. This was unacceptable. Noah is a wonderful boy. Others avoided eye contact, hustling their kids out. I packed up Noah's gifts while Linda, the coordinator, helped me gather decorations. My family stood clustered near the door, awkward, silent, my mother's eyes full of desperation. Maribel, don't do this, she pleaded. We can work this out. Not today, Mom, maybe not ever. With Noah's small hand in mine, we walked out, past my parents, past Audrey's furious face, past years of silence and enabling. The air outside was cool, a sharp contrast to the suffocating heat of that room. But in the back of my mind, a question clawed at me. If my sister could do this to a child on his birthday, what else was she capable of? The drive home after Noah's ruined party was one of the hardest of my life. The silence in the car was heavy, broken only by Noah's sniffles. In the rearview mirror, I saw him clutching the dinosaur figurine James had given him, turning it over and over in his hands the way he did when he was trying to calm himself. My grip on the steering wheel was so tight my knuckles were white. My chest ached with anger, guilt, grief, all tangled together. And then came the question that cut me deeper than anything Audrey had said. "Mom," Noah's voice trembled, "is something wrong with me?" I nearly swerved. I pulled the car into a parking lot and turned to face him. His eyes were red, his cheeks streaked with tears. "No," I said firmly, cupping his face. "There is nothing wrong with you, your brain just works differently. That makes you unique, not broken. Different is not defective." He swallowed hard, but Aunt Audrey said. Aunt Audrey was cruel and wrong. Would you call a dolphin defective because it can't walk on land, or an eagle defective because it can't swim? He frowned, thinking, no, they're just adapted. Exactly, I whispered. You're adapted differently too, and that makes you special. He gave me a small nod, his lips quivering. I still wish I got to eat my dinosaur cake. Tears filled my eyes. I know, sweetheart, I'm so sorry. When we got home, I refused to let Audrey's cruelty define Noah's birthday. I pulled out backup cupcakes, stuck candles in them, and ordered pizza. We built a blanket fort in the living room, watched his favorite dinosaur documentary, and sang Happy Birthday under twinkling fairy lights. When he blew out his candles, I asked what he wished for. I can't tell you, he said seriously, or it won't come true. Then, after a pause, but it wasn't for a new aunt. I laughed through my tears, hugging him tight. His resilience amazed me. But when Noah finally fell asleep surrounded by his dinosaur toys, the weight of the day crashed down on me. My phone buzzed, calls from my parents, missed texts from Audrey, and then a message from Stephanie, Tyler's mom. What happened today was unacceptable. Noah is a wonderful boy, the kids adore him, we've got your back. Followed by another parent, stay strong Maribel, you're not alone. And another, with a photo of their daughter holding a drawing of a bright green triceratops, with Happy Birthday Noah, written across it in wobbly letters. I pinned that drawing to the fridge. And in that moment I realized, Noah and I didn't need people who couldn't accept him. We already had a family, the one we chose. By the next morning, though, the fallout began. At 7:15 my phone rang. My mom's name flashed on the screen. I braced myself. Maribel, her voice cracked, thick with tears. You have to help us. The venue is threatening to cancel Audrey's wedding. I sat up in bed, stunned. What? Linda, the coordinator from yesterday, she called Audrey this morning. She said she witnessed reprehensible behavior toward a child with special needs. The venue has a strict anti-bullying policy. They're reviewing whether to honor Audrey's contract. I blinked, trying to process. The same Linda who had helped me hang paper vines. The same Linda who saw Noah arranging dinosaurs on tables with such care. My mom sobbed. Please, Maribel, please talk to them. Tell them it was just a misunderstanding. Audrey has been planning this wedding for a year. Everything is paid for. James's family is flying in from Europe. The dress is custom. I closed my eyes. Mom, what Audrey did wasn't just rude. It was cruel. She threw away an autistic child's birthday cake. She called him defective. That isn't a misunderstanding. I know, my mom whispered, but she's still your sister. As if on cue, another call buzzed through. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello, Maribel, a man's voice said. This is James. Audrey's fiancé. I stiffened. James. I wanted to call about yesterday. I had no idea Audrey threw away the cake. I would never have condoned that. Thank you, I said cautiously. He sighed heavily. I've always thought Noah was a great kid. The way Audrey spoke about him yesterday, it showed me a side of her I didn't know existed. It went against everything I believe about family. I stayed quiet, letting him continue. My youngest brother has ADHD. My parents always made sure he was included. What I saw yesterday, it horrified me. His voice cracked slightly. To be honest, I'm considering postponing the wedding. Venue issues aside, I need to know if Audrey and I share the same values. The words stunned me. Postpone the wedding. The perfect wedding Audrey had built her entire identity around. James, I said softly, I don't want to come between you two. You're not, he cut in. This is about Audrey's behavior, but I'd like to learn more about Noah. Would you meet with me, help me understand? Noah shuffled sleepily into the room, rubbing his eyes. I pulled him close, kissed his hair. Yes, I told James. I'd be glad to. Later that day, Linda called me directly. The management asked me to reach out, she explained. The venue has a zero-tolerance policy for discriminatory behavior. What your sister did, throwing away that cake, violated it. I collapsed onto the couch, exhausted. Linda, why are you calling me? Shouldn't you be talking to Audrey? We did, she wasn't receptive. Suggested we talk to you instead. Of course she had. Audrey always expected me to clean up her messes. But then Linda's voice softened. I wanted to call because I understand. My son is on the spectrum too, he's 17 now. I remember those birthday parties, those family gatherings where people just didn't get it. That's why I couldn't stay quiet. Her empathy brought tears to my eyes. I don't want to ruin my sister's wedding, I admitted, my throat tight. But I also don't want to minimize what she did. What if, Linda suggested gently, Audrey met with me and a specialist, not as punishment, but as an opportunity to learn. If she engaged in that process, I could recommend honoring the contract. It was an unexpected lifeline. I agreed, and when I told my mom, she cried with relief, promising that Audrey would cooperate. But in my gut, I wasn't sure. Because the real question wasn't whether Audrey could sit in a meeting. It was whether she could truly change. That night, as Noah slept peacefully with his dinosaurs arranged in evolutionary order beside him, I sat in the quiet and thought about the mess we were in. My son had been humiliated by his own aunt. My parents had sided with her, as always. And now, suddenly, I was the one being asked to save Audrey's wedding. The irony burned. But there was something else, too, something unexpected. For the first time in years, Audrey's Golden Girl armor had a crack. And maybe, just maybe, this was my chance to make her finally face what she'd spent her whole life avoiding: the truth. I thought the storm had peaked after Linda's call. I thought the worst was behind us. But the truth was, the fallout from the cake incident had only just begun. Because when you're raising a child on the spectrum, you know that the emotional wounds don't always show up right away. Sometimes, they come later, when the adrenaline wears off, when the routine breaks, when the trust you worked so hard to build suddenly feels shaky. That was what happened with Noah. 2 days after the party, I got a call from his teacher, Miss Peterson. Marable, she said gently, Noah been very withdrawn in class. He's refusing to participate in morning circle. He asked me if he could sit out recess because he doesn't want the other kids to see him cry. My stomach clenched. Did he tell you why? He said, my aunt says I'm defective. Maybe my friends think that too. Her voice cracked. I tried to reassure him, but I think it might help if we involved the school counselor. I agreed immediately. By that afternoon, I was sitting in a small office with Noah on one side of me and Mrs. Delgado, the counselor, on the other. Noah, Mrs. Delgado said kindly, can you tell me what's been bothering you? Noah looked down at his dinosaur shirt, fingers twisting the fabric. His voice was barely above a whisper. Aunt Audrey threw my cake in the trash. She said I don't deserve things because I'm defective. Hearing him repeat those words broke something inside me. Mrs. Delgado leaned in, her tone calm but firm. Noah, I want you to hear me very clearly. You are not defective. You are amazing. Your brain is wired in a way that makes you see things most people miss. That's not wrong, it's extraordinary. Noah peeked up at her, uncertain. Do you know who else was different? She asked. Albert Einstein, Temple Grandin, Nikola Tesla, all people who saw the world in unique ways, and they changed it, just like you can. Noah's eyes widened. So, maybe dinosaurs aren't the only thing I can teach people about. Exactly, Mrs. Delgado said with a smile. For the first time since the party, I saw a spark of hope in his eyes. But Mrs. Delgado didn't stop there. After Noah left with the assistant for a break, she turned to me. Marable, this is serious. What Audrey did wasn't just rude, it was psychological harm. Words like that, especially from family, cut deep. If Noah starts internalizing them, it could impact his self-esteem long-term. My throat tightened. What can I do? Therapy first and foremost. Reinforce at home what we're telling him here, that he is valued, loved, and not broken. And she hesitated. Documentation. Documentation. Yes, if Audrey ever tries to minimize what she did, or if this escalates, you need evidence. Witnesses. Written accounts. This isn't just a family disagreement, it's discrimination against a child with a disability. Her words chilled me, because suddenly this wasn't just about emotions anymore. This was legal territory. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a notebook and wrote everything down: the spilled juice, the confrontation, Audrey's words, the cake in the dumpster, Linda's phone call, Noah's meltdown afterward. I messaged Stephanie and the other parents who'd reached out. To my surprise, several offered to write statements about what they witnessed. Within 24 hours, I had emails from 3 different parents describing, in painful detail, how Audrey had called my son defective and thrown his cake away. I saved every one. Meanwhile, my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. My mother called daily, begging me to intervene with the venue. My father sent terse messages about family loyalty. And Audrey, she texted me once. You've always been jealous, you're trying to ruin my life. If you don't fix this, I'll never forgive you. I stared at the words on my screen, my blood boiling. She had humiliated my child, and now she was painting herself as the victim. I didn't respond. Instead, I called James. We met at a quiet cafe 2 towns over. He arrived looking weary, his tie loosened, dark circles under his eyes. Thank you for coming, he said, sliding into the booth across from me. Noah's more important than coffee, I replied. He leaned forward, lowering his voice. I need to be honest. Audrey's been spiraling since the party. She's furious the venue might cancel. She says you and Linda are conspiring against her. I sighed. James, I didn't ask for this. I just wanted my son to have a birthday party. I know, he said quickly. That's why I wanted to see you. I don't know if I can marry someone who thinks a child is less deserving because of a condition. It's made me reevaluate everything. I studied his face. He wasn't just saying this to guilt me, he was genuinely torn. James, I said carefully, marriage is about more than flowers and venues. If Audrey can't respect my son or any child like him, what happens when it's your child? What happens if they're not perfect in her eyes? His jaw clenched, he didn't answer. But the silence spoke volumes. The next day, I took Noah to his pediatrician for a checkup. Dr. Patel had been with us since Noah was a toddler. She listened as I explained what happened, her expression growing darker by the second. This kind of language, defective, can be extremely damaging to a child's mental health, she said firmly. I want to document this in Noah's medical record. That way, if he shows signs of anxiety or depression later, we have a clear incident to connect it to. She handed me a printout for therapy referrals. I strongly recommend weekly sessions with a child psychologist. I nodded, relief and sorrow mixing in my chest. At least someone was taking this seriously. But the moment that truly shook me came later that night. I found Noah sitting on the floor of his room, all his dinosaur figurines lined up in neat rows. Normally, he loved to act out elaborate prehistoric battles, but this time, he just stared at them silently. Buddy, I asked softly, sitting beside him. They're all extinct, he whispered. No matter how strong they were, even the Triceratops. My chest tightened. That doesn't make them less amazing, they still lived, they still mattered. He nodded faintly, but people forget them. I pulled him into my arms. I won't ever let people forget you, Noah, not ever. And in that moment, I knew Audrey's cruelty had left a scar, one that therapy and love might heal but never erase. 2 days later, Linda called again. Marable, she said, the board met. They're leaning toward canceling the wedding, but they want to give Audrey one last chance. If she issues a formal apology, not just to the venue but to Noah, we'll move forward. I almost dropped the phone. An apology from Audrey. I know, Linda sighed, but it's that or nothing. When I told my parents, they were ecstatic. This is perfect, Mom exclaimed. She'll apologize, the wedding will be saved, and we can move on. But my gut twisted, because I knew Audrey. And Audrey didn't apologize, not sincerely, not ever. That night, as I tucked Noah into bed, he looked up at me with wide eyes. Do you think Aunt Audrey will say sorry? He asked. I brushed his hair back. I don't know, sweetheart, but even if she doesn't, that's not a reflection on you, that's about her. He nodded, though I could see he wasn't convinced. And as I sat in the dark after he fell asleep, I realized the truth. This wasn't just about whether Audrey apologized. It was about whether my family was finally willing to face the truth, or keep protecting the golden child at any cost. When Linda told me the venue would only move forward if Audrey issued a formal apology to Noah, I thought, naively, that maybe this was the beginning of accountability. But I should have known better. Because when I told my parents, their reaction wasn't relief. It wasn't compassion. It wasn't even anger at Audrey. It was desperation. Marable, my mother said, wringing her hands like she always did when things slipped out of her control, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Audrey has been planning this wedding for over a year. Do you have any idea how much money has gone into it? Do you have any idea how much pain Audrey has caused Noah? I snapped. My father cut in, his tone clipped. This isn't about Noah anymore. This is about family unity. Family unity, the phrase I'd heard my whole life, the shield they always used to cover Audrey's sins. That evening my phone buzzed again. James. Can we meet? He asked. We sat across from each other in the same cafe as before. His face was drawn, his eyes bloodshot. She won't do it, he said bluntly. She says apologizing to an 8-year-old would humiliate her, that it would make her look weak. My chest tightened, so she'd rather lose the venue than admit she was wrong. She doesn't believe she was wrong, James said quietly. That's the problem. I pressed my palms against my eyes, trying to push back the frustration. James, you saw what she did. You heard what she said. You know this isn't just a misunderstanding. He leaned forward, his voice low but fierce. I do, and that's why I've made a decision. I froze. What decision? His jaw tightened. If Audrey can't make things right with Noah, I'm postponing the wedding. The words hit me like a thunderclap. You'd postpone, I whispered. Yes, because if this is how she treats her own nephew, how would she treat our future children? How would she treat me if I ever disappointed her? For the first time since this nightmare began, I felt a flicker of something I hadn't dared to hope for validation. But also fear, because if James pulled the plug, my parents would blame me, entirely. 2 nights later, we gathered at my parents' house. It felt like a tribunal, my mother paking, my father standing stiffly by the mantel, Audrey perched on the couch in a silk blouse, arms crossed, eyes cold. James sat beside her, his expression unreadable. I held Noah's hand, his small fingers trembling in mine. My father cleared his throat. We're here to resolve this. Audrey has something to say. Audrey shot him a look, then exhaled dramatically. Fine, Noah, I'm sorry your birthday didn't go as planned. I bristled instantly. That wasn't an apology, that was wordplay. Noah frowned, confusion in his eyes. You mean because you threw away my cake? Audrey stiffened. I didn't. Stop, James cut in, his voice sharp. Stop lying, Audrey. I saw the way you looked at Marable when she brought that cake back in. You admitted it at the party. Half the parents there heard you. Audrey's face went pale. Silence fell, the kind of silence that buzzes in your ears, heavy and suffocating. James pressed on. You threw away the cake. You called an 8-year-old defective. You humiliated your own nephew in front of his friends, and you think you can brush it off with a half apology? Not anymore. My father stepped forward, his voice booming. That's enough. We don't air family business like this. James turned on him. Family business, this isn't business, this is cruelty, and if you keep enabling it, you're just as guilty. My father's mouth opened, then closed. He had no answer. My mother clutched Audrey's arm. Just say the words, please, for the wedding. Audrey jerked her arm away. Why should I? He is defective. He ruined my purse. He ruined my day. He's been ruining everything since the day he was born. Noah flinched like he'd been struck. And that was it, the breaking point. I rose to my feet, fury shaking through me. Don't you ever speak about my son like that again. He is not defective. He is not your scapegoat. He is a child, my child, and he deserves better than this family has ever given him. No one will ever love you because of him, Audrey spat. The room erupted. James shot to his feet, his face crimson. Enough, Audrey. If you can't even see how vile you sound right now, then maybe you don't deserve a wedding. Maybe you don't deserve me. Audrey's jaw dropped. James. No, he cut her off. I've tried to rationalize your behavior, I've made excuses. But tonight, I saw the truth. You're not ready to be a wife, you're not ready to be an aunt. And if you can't even treat a child with basic human decency, then I'm done. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. My mother gasped. My father's face crumpled in disbelief. Audrey's lip trembled for the first time, her composure cracking. You'd throw me away, over her, she whispered, pointing at me like I was the enemy. No, James said coldly, over Noah. For once, Audrey had no comeback. She sat frozen, her face pale, her eyes darting like a cornered animal. Noah leaned against me, whispering, Mom, can we go home? I wrapped my arm around him. Yes, sweetheart, we're leaving. As we turned toward the door, James called after me. Marable, thank you, for standing up for him, for standing up when no one else would. I met his gaze, there was gratitude there, and something else. Conviction. That night, as I tucked Noah into bed, he looked up at me with solemn eyes. Mom, he asked, what happens if Aunt Audrey doesn't change? I kissed his forehead. Then we live our lives without her, and we surround ourselves with people who see you for who you are, not who they want you to be. He nodded slowly, like James. Like James, I said softly. But deep inside, I knew the truth. Everything had shifted. The family had split wide open. And the wedding, the golden, perfect wedding, was dangling by a thread. The morning after that explosive family confrontation, I woke to silence. My phone, usually buzzing with my parents' calls and Audrey's accusatory texts, was still. For the first time in weeks, there was quiet. But quiet doesn't always mean peace. Sometimes it's just the pause before the next storm. Noah padded into my room, clutching his favorite Triceratops plush. He climbed into bed beside me and whispered, Did Uncle James mean it when he said he was done with Aunt Audrey? I pulled him close. Yes, sweetheart, he meant it. He saw how unfair she was being to you. Noah was quiet for a long time. Then, in a voice so small it broke me, he said, Maybe that means I ruined her wedding too. I sat up instantly, my hands on his shoulders. Noah, listen to me. You did nothing wrong. You didn't ruin anything. Audrey's choices did. She's the one who threw away your cake. She's the one who said those awful words. That's on her, not you. His brow furrowed. But if she doesn't get married now, will Grandma and Grandpa be mad? I swallowed hard. They might be, but that doesn't make it your fault. Sometimes people want to blame the wrong person because it's easier, but the truth always matters more than keeping the peace. Later that day, James called. Marable, he began, his voice steady but heavy, I told Audrey the wedding's postponed. The venue was already leaning toward cancellation, but after last night, I don't care. I can't marry someone who thinks cruelty is strength. I sat down hard at the kitchen table. James, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just know this, you showed me who Audrey really is, and you reminded me of the kind of family I want to build. One where kids are safe, respected, loved. My throat tightened. Noah and I, we appreciate you more than you know. He hesitated. Would it be all right if I still saw Noah sometimes? He shouldn't lose me just because Audrey and I. Yes, I said quickly. He adores you. You've been more of an uncle to him than Audrey's ever been an aunt. When I hung up, I realized something profound. Sometimes blood doesn't make a family, choice does. Meanwhile, my parents were unraveling. My mother showed up at my door 3 days later, her face puffy from crying. Maribel, she whispered, I owe you an apology too. I froze, my mother apologizing. That had never happened in my entire life. She wrung her hands. I was so desperate to keep the peace to protect Audrey that I ignored how much pain she was causing you. And Noah, I thought if I just smoothed things over it would pass, but it hasn't. It's only gotten worse, and now, her voice broke. Now the wedding is gone, James is gone, and Audrey won't speak to me. For a moment, the daughter in me wanted to comfort her. But then I remembered Noah's tearful face, his little voice asking if he was defective. I straightened my spine. Mom, I accept your apology, but understand this, you didn't just fail me, you failed Noah. And if you want to be in his life, things have to change. No more brushing things under the rug, no more enabling Audrey, no more pretending. She nodded through her tears. I understand, I want to learn, I want to be better. For once, I believed her. 2 weeks later, Noah had his first therapy session with Dr. Singh, a child psychologist who specialized in kids on the spectrum. Noah sat cross-legged on the rug in her office, dinosaurs spread out between them. Tell me about this one, Dr. Singh said, pointing at a velociraptor. That's Blue, Noah explained. She's smart, but people think she's dangerous just because she's different. Dr. Singh smiled gently. Do you ever feel like Blue? Noah hesitated, then nodded. Sometimes, Aunt Audrey says I'm defective, like broken. My heart clenched, but Dr. Singh leaned forward. Noah, can I tell you something? Brains are like ecosystems. Every species, every difference plays an important role. If we only had one kind of dinosaur, the whole world would collapse. Your brain is just as important as anyone else. You're not broken, you're essential. Noah's eyes lit up, like the Triceratops. Exactly, Dr. Singh said warmly. I watched hope spark in him again. Piece by piece, therapy was helping him rebuild what Audrey had tried to shatter. And then the letter arrived. A courier knocked on our door one Saturday morning, handing me a cream-colored envelope. Inside, in Audrey's precise handwriting, was something I never thought I'd see, a genuine apology. She admitted to throwing away the cake, to calling Noah defective, to lashing out from jealousy and insecurity. She said Dr. Winters, the specialist Linda arranged, had made her realize that she wasn't just cruel, she was ignorant. She even included a donation receipt to a local autism support group, in Noah's name. At the end, she wrote, I don't expect forgiveness right away, but I want to try. If Noah is willing, I'd like to give him another dinosaur cake. This time, I promise it won't end up in the trash. Noah read the letter himself, tracing each word with his finger. When he finished, he looked up at me. Mom, is this a real apology or a fake one? I smiled faintly. What do you think? He pursed his lips thoughtfully. She said the exact thing she did wrong. That means it's real, but I still need time. I hugged him tight. And that's okay, sweetheart. You take all the time you need. Months later, Audrey did get her do-over with Noah. We invited her to a small gathering for his 9th birthday. She showed up early, carrying a brand new Triceratops cake. When Noah counted the candles, she knelt beside him and whispered, 17 candles left until you're an adult. I hope I get to see them all. For the first time, Noah smiled at her without hesitation. It's been over a year now. Our family isn't perfect. Audrey still struggles. My parents still fall into old patterns sometimes, but something shifted that day with the cake. A line was drawn, and once it was crossed, there was no going back. Now, my parents attend workshops about autism. Audrey volunteers at the very support group she once mocked. James never married her, but he stayed in Noah's life, showing up to baseball games and science fairs like an honorary uncle. And Noah? He's thriving. He joined a dinosaur science club at school, made more friends, and even gave a presentation about paleontology to his entire class. When I asked if he was nervous, he shook his head and said, "If people don't understand me at first, I'll just keep teaching them." Like Mom did. The scar is still there. I'll never forget the sight of my son asking if he was defective. But scars are proof of survival, proof that we endured, that we chose love over silence. And if you're watching this, if you've ever been in a family that made you feel small, unwanted, or defective for being who you are, hear me now. You are not broken, you are not less. You deserve your cake, your celebration, your joy, just like Noah did. So I'll leave you with this question. Have you ever had to stand up against your own family to protect someone you love? Did it cost you relationships, or did it change them for the better? Share your story in the comments. And if Noah's story touched you, hit that like button and subscribe. Because every time you do, you're telling kids like him, and parents like me, that their voices matter. Thank you for listening, and remember, choosing love over silence.